Hey guys, tonight we're going back to the worn-out swings and sun-warmed pavement of a childhood playground. The kind where time stretched long and slow, like honey dripping from a spoon. You can almost hear the creak of the chains and the peals of laughter that floated up into the sky like balloons someone forgot to hold on to. You probably wouldn't make it across those monkey bars now without a twinge in your back or a bit of hesitation, but back then, you flew. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're still awake, I'd love to know, where are you listening from and what time is it for you right now? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. It starts with you, just a kid again, knees scratched and imagination unchained. There's a tree in the schoolyard that you swore whispered secrets if you stood still enough. And beneath that tree was where you first met them, your childhood friend. The one who didn't ask you to explain yourself. The one who just got it. You don't remember the exact moment it all began, only that from then on, life was a little more colorful with them in it. You were different in small ways. Maybe you liked drawing and they preferred running, or they were loud while you lived mostly in your head. But somehow, that didn't matter. Friendship back then didn't come with fine print or checkboxes. It was more like two puzzle pieces bumped into each other and decided they'd like to stick around. Together, you built worlds from dirt and dreams. The sandbox became a kingdom, the slide, a secret tunnel, and every pebble had a story if you squinted hard enough. You remember those endless summer days where time didn't tick, it sighed slowly and warmly. Sometimes you argued about rules to made-up games or who got to be the dragon. But no matter how loud it got, it always ended the same, with shared laughter and someone offering the last piece of candy like a peace treaty. There's a kind of resilience you learn in those moments, not the hard kind that comes from heartbreak or hardship, but the soft kind, the kind that teaches you it's okay to be wrong as long as you come back together in the end. And the weather was always just right in your memory, wasn't it? Sunny with the occasional poetic breeze. You wore joy like a second skin, and your friend? They were part of your foundation, as natural and necessary as the sun setting at the end of the day. But something else was happening back then, quietly and without your knowing. You were learning how to be a person, how to share, how to wait your turn, how to listen even when the story didn't quite make sense. And in your friend's steady presence, you found your first mirror, a place where you could see yourself not just as you were, but as someone worth knowing. There's this funny thing that happens when you grow up. You forget what it feels like to be completely accepted, not for your achievements or your polish, but just for showing up with your weird socks and crooked smile. Childhood friendships remind you that love doesn't always need a reason. And if you listen closely, you might hear the echo of that young voice, yours, giggling about something absurd, holding a grass-stained hand, and not worrying at all about tomorrow. Some say those friendships fade because they're supposed to, that they belong to a time and place we can't get back to. But maybe, just maybe, they're like seeds tucked into the corners of your heart, waiting for the right moment, the right season to grow again. As the sun dipped low on those carefree days and the golden hour painted everything soft and holy, you and your friend would make promises neither of you could keep, to never move away, to always be best friends, to never forget. And even though life eventually had other plans, maybe the truth is some part of you never let go. There's something beautiful in the simplicity of it all. No one was trying to teach lessons, but still, you learned. You learned that being known feels like sunlight on skin. You learned that showing up, day after day, game after game, mattered more than saying the perfect thing. And here you are now, years later, with those memories folded quietly into who you've become. Maybe you haven't thought about them in a while, or maybe they've lingered just beneath the surface, like a song you hum when you don't even realize it. But tonight, you remember. You sit with that soft, sun-warmed version of yourself and the friend who helped you bloom. You don't need to rush. There's no bell ringing, no grown-up obligations pulling you back. Just this quiet. The seasons shift, always have, always will. And in time, the tree where you once whispered dreams became just another tree. You got older, taller, maybe a little quieter. Your friend changed too. New interests, new friends, maybe even a new town. You still remember the day you realized you hadn't seen them in a while. It wasn't dramatic, no tearful goodbye, no final handshake. Just an empty swing, swaying slightly in the wind, and the quiet ache of something unfinished. You carry that with you for a while, the first soft bruise of parting. But you don't call it that, not then. You're too young to understand that sometimes people drift like dandelion fluff, without warning, without blame. You just know something feels missing, like reaching for your favorite sweater only to remember it was donated last spring. Time does what time does. It moves. You grow into new shapes. School changes, your handwriting evolves, and you start using words like responsibility and schedule with surprising seriousness. But somewhere inside, tucked into the folds of your grown-up routines, the memory of your friend stays warm. Like a note in your pocket you forgot was there, until one day you reach in and it makes you smile. Years pass. Maybe you look for them once or twice online. Maybe not. Life has a way of sweeping you into new friendships, fresh heartbreaks, job interviews, dinner plans, leaky faucets. There's always something. And yet, sometimes, on a quiet morning when the toast burns just slightly and the sky looks especially kind, you wonder, whatever happened to them? And then, one day, they return. Not in the way you'd expect. No slow-motion reunion at a coffee shop, no dramatic knock at the door. It's subtler than that. Maybe it's a message out of the blue, or a chance encounter at the library, both of you reaching for the same dog-eared novel. They say your name like it was never forgotten. You smile like you were just waiting for this. You sit together on a park bench or a quiet patio, or the hood of a car that's seen better days. You catch up in that slow, lopsided way grown-ups do. So, what have you been up to? Somehow trying to summarize years of laughter, loss, and laundry. But even as the words stumble out, the silence between you feels familiar, comfortable, like that old swing, weathered but still capable of holding your weight. There's something about reconnecting with someone who knew you before the world told you who you were supposed to be. They don't care about your resume. They remember how you used to bite your lip when thinking, or how you once cried when your paper boat sank. And as they speak, different voice, deeper eyes, you realize they've changed too. Life has scuffed them up in places you can't see. But beneath it all, they're still there. The kid who once built castles with you out of fallen leaves and good intentions. And you start to feel like yourself again. The version of you that existed before you needed titles or explanations, before you learned to hide your softer parts. You laugh together, not the polite kind you give in meetings, but the real kind, the one that bubbles up unexpectedly and leaves your cheeks aching. You didn't realize how much you missed laughing like that. And then something happens. They say something simple like, "Remember when you were afraid to jump off the swings, and then you did?" And suddenly the air stills. You do remember, not just the moment, but the feeling. That first breathless rush of courage, the way your heart soared and landed a few seconds behind you. They look at you now, and their eyes soften. You've always been braver than you thought. And that's when it hits you. They didn't just return to catch up. They returned to remind you of who you were, of who you still are. Soft resilience. That's what they've brought back. The quiet strength you once wore without realizing it. The kind that doesn't shout or demand attention.
the kind that bends but never breaks, like the branches of that old tree, still standing. Some say we outgrow childhood friendships, that they were meant for a simpler time. But maybe they're like stars. You don't always see them, but they're still there, waiting to shine again when the night is just right. The two of you sit a while longer, not saying much. You don't need to. And in the silence, something inside you clicks gently into place, like a puzzle piece long thought lost, now found again, not to finish a picture, but to remind you what it means to feel whole.
You don't talk about everything at once. That would be too much. You sip your drinks, tea, coffee, something with cinnamon maybe, and let the conversation unfold the way autumn leaves scatter across a path. Slowly, without rush, each moment landing softly where it needs to. There's comfort in the slowness. You're both older now, but the pace feels familiar, like walking barefoot on old wooden floors. You ask about their life, where they've been, what they've seen, and they ask about yours in return. But the questions aren't just about jobs or cities. They're about the things you forgot people could ask. Are you happy? When's the last time you felt free? Do you still hum when you concentrate? You do, actually. You just stopped noticing. That's the thing about childhood friends. They remember your habits before you did. They remember how you used to squint at the sun when deep in thought, how you used to carry around notebooks filled with misspelled dreams. They remember the way you believed in magic, even if it was just how a puddle could turn a reflection into something otherworldly. And maybe that's why their presence feels so necessary now. Life, as beautiful as it is, can wear on you like a favorite coat that's just a little too heavy by spring. You've gotten used to holding things in, shoulders tense, jaw set, heart guarded. But with them, you find yourself loosening, laughing mid-sentence, breathing more slowly, like you don't have to prove anything, because you don't. They're not here to judge your choices or unravel your past. They're here because they remember the soft parts of you before the world asked you to harden them. And in their company, those soft parts feel safe to return. There's a story they tell, something small, a memory you barely recall. A time you stood up to someone on the playground, not out of anger, but because someone else needed help. They say you were brave. You shake your head, laugh it off. I was just a kid. But maybe that's the point. You were just a kid, and you did it anyway. Soft resilience isn't always heroic or headline-worthy. Sometimes it's in the tiny acts, the quiet support, the whispered encouragement, the ability to show up. You'd forgotten how much strength there was in gentleness, how endurance doesn't have to roar, it can hum. They tell you about their own moments of wear and tear, a heartbreak, a year that felt like molasses, nights spent wondering if they were still the same person inside. You listen, and your eyes don't fill with pity, just presence. Because now you understand, we all carry pieces of ourselves that get lost along the way. But with the right company, some of those pieces come home. You wonder, softly, inwardly, how many people walk around each day, unaware they've become strangers to their younger selves. How many would weep at the sight of an old friend, remembering the exact way they used to smile? The thought lingers like fog across a quiet pond. There's something deeply grounding about this reconnection. It reminds you that time bends, memory loops, and sometimes healing comes not in a breakthrough, but in a familiar voice saying, "I missed this." You take a walk after the conversation ends, not because you need to, but because your body feels light in a way it hasn't in a long time. As you move, you notice things. The rustle of wind through branches, the way a squirrel balances with comedic flair on a fence post, the faint hum of a lawnmower in the distance. The world hasn't changed, but you're seeing it with different eyes now. And maybe, just maybe, you begin to ask yourself what it means to return. Not just for them, for you. What does it mean to return to the parts of yourself you've tucked away for safekeeping?
The wonder, the ease, the softness that once made you feel like anything was possible. Some say we're made to move forward, to outgrow old skins and reinvent ourselves. But maybe some parts of us were never meant to be left behind. Maybe they were just waiting for a hand to reach back and gently say, "It's okay, you can come out now." You pause by a tree, not the old one, but a new one, tall, proud, bathed in gold light. You rest your hand on its trunk and feel the texture of its bark, solid and rough and real. You close your eyes for a moment and just breathe. There's no rush, no schedule to follow. Just you, the wind, and the memory of someone who reminded you that your softness is not a flaw, it's a strength. And maybe, just maybe, you begin to believe it.
That night, as you lie in bed, the room quieter than usual, your thoughts turn inward, not with urgency, but like soft clouds rolling over a quiet hill. Something in you is shifting, subtly, like a stone nudged slightly in the riverbed, letting the current move just a little differently around it. You find yourself smiling at the ceiling, not because of a particular joke or memory, but because for the first time in a long while, you feel seen, not just for who you've become, but for who you were, and maybe still are. The next morning, you wake up earlier than planned. No alarm, just the light from the window brushing against your face. You stretch slowly, feel the bones settle, the air cool against your skin. There's no need to rush. Your day hasn't even begun, and yet it already feels softer somehow, less like something to conquer, more like something to be curious about. Your phone buzzes gently, a message from them. Simple. "Morning, that was really nice yesterday. Let's do it again sometime." You tap a smiley face back, but it's more than politeness. You mean it. There's something about rediscovered friendships that don't demand catching up on every missed moment. They're more like a gentle hand on your shoulder, saying, "It's okay, we're here now." And maybe that's all we really need sometimes. Presence, not performance. Later, you wander outside with no real destination. The park feels welcoming today, not because it's changed, but because you have. You sit on a bench where the wood is faded from seasons of stories and shoes and spilled drinks. A jogger passes. A child chases a leaf. Someone walks by with a dog wearing a raincoat 2 sizes too big. You smile again. That's 2 in one day. Not bad. And as you sit, you think about resilience. Not the kind people shout about in motivational speeches, but the quiet kind. The resilience that looks like showing up for yourself when no one's watching. The kind that whispers, "Try again," after a disappointment. The kind that lets go of old narratives with a soft breath, not a dramatic exit. It's the resilience of a tree growing through the cracks of concrete, not with force, but with insistence. A softness that doesn't surrender, even when surrounded by hardness. You wonder if your younger self would recognize you now. Maybe not at first. Maybe they'd be surprised by how much you've carried. But then again, maybe they'd see right through the layers and nod knowingly. Because deep down, the thread hasn't broken. It's just woven itself through different seasons. A breeze brushes past you, and for a moment you feel as though time folds inward, like the years melt into something weightless. You think about your childhood friend again, how they reminded you of who you were, without trying to fix who you are now. Just 2 people meeting in the middle, offering presence like a warm cup of tea. You pull out a small notebook, one you haven't touched in months, and jot something down. A feeling, a line, a memory. It's nothing much, but it's honest. And maybe that's the start of something. A few pages in, you write this: "Resilience is not about being unbreakable. It's about being open, willing, soft enough to bend and not shatter, quiet enough to listen to your own heartbeat, brave enough to try again, even when the story gets blurry." You pause, look at the sentence, and let it settle. There's no need to post it anywhere,
No urgency to turn it into anything more than what it is. It's yours, and it matters. Somewhere nearby, someone laughs. Not the loud kind, the kind that slips out when you're caught off guard by joy. And for a second, you wonder what it would be like to collect moments like that. Little pockets of humanity, soft and spontaneous, like autumn leaves pressed between pages. Not for show, just for remembering. You close the notebook and just breathe. This, you think, might be the real lesson your old friend brought back with them. Not to push harder, run faster, or achieve more, but to notice again, to soften, to remember that even as the world keeps spinning, you get to decide how you meet it. Some say we grow by becoming stronger, but maybe we grow by becoming gentler. And as you sit on that sunlit bench, wrapped in a quiet moment that asks for nothing more than your presence, you begin to believe that.
The following weekend, the two of you meet again, not by grand plan, but by quiet agreement. It's one of those days that doesn't announce itself with drama. Just soft clouds, a breeze that seems to know its own pace, and a sky the color of worn denim. You walk side by side, neither in a rush. The street ahead winds gently, like it understands the rhythm you both need right now. There's a calm between you, no need to fill every silence, no pressure to dig up the past. You simply exist, together, in the comfort of shared steps. There's a little shop you used to visit as kids, a corner bakery with foggy windows and shelves that always seem to smell of cinnamon and something slightly burnt. You pass it now, and without thinking, both of you pause. The sign is faded, the lettering half peeled, but it's still there. You exchange a look, curious, amused, and without a word, push the door open. The bell jingles the same way it did years ago, a little more tired maybe, but still bright. Inside, the same woman runs the counter, or maybe it's her daughter now. Time is funny like that, blurred at the edges but sharp where it matters. You order something simple, a pastry with too much icing, a cup of tea that scalds the tongue if you're impatient. And as you sit at the corner table, the same one you used to claim as your secret hideout, something in you relaxes. You didn't know how much you missed this, not the food, not even the place, but the feeling. The way things can be light when you let go of trying so hard. Your friend unwraps a napkin and pulls out a small drawing. It's childlike, crayon on folded paper, a figure with uneven arms and a crooked smile. Found this in a box last night, they say. I think you made it, remember? You blank. It takes a second, but then you do. You remember the afternoon you made it, scribbling wildly because you wanted to cheer them up after their goldfish died. It had a little crown if you remember correctly, a royal fish of sorts. You both laugh, a little too loudly for the quiet shop, but no one minds. There's a lesson here though it doesn't arrive with fanfare. It tiptoes in gently, like the way light drips through lace curtains. You don't need to outgrow everything. Some things aren't meant to be traded for sophistication or seriousness. Some parts of you are supposed to stay tender, playful, even a little ridiculous. They keep you alive. The drawing sits on the table between you, wrinkled and smudged, but whole. You trace the lines with your eyes, and suddenly it hits you. This is resilience too. The ability to laugh at old versions of yourself without embarrassment. To hold your younger self close, not as someone you escaped, but as someone you still carry. Outside the window, a bird lands on a branch that looks far too thin to hold its weight. But it perches easily, unfazed. You wonder if it knows something you don't. Or maybe it's just practiced in the art of trusting small things. Some say resilience is like armor, but maybe it's more like that branch, bending slightly under the weight, never breaking, trusting that each moment will pass into the next. Maybe that's the version you need, the one that doesn't harden you but steadies you. Later, as you walk home, your friend tells a story about a time they fell apart, quietly, privately, and how no one really noticed. But that's okay, they say, because sometimes healing isn't loud.
Sometimes it's just making your bed one morning or cooking yourself a meal you used to love. You nod because you get it. You really do. And then they say something you didn't expect. You always reminded me of soft things that held strong. You pause. That's not a phrase people use often, but it sticks. Like dew on a petal that somehow doesn't fall. That night, you lie in bed again, this time not thinking so much as listening. To your breath, to the whir of the ceiling fan, to the way your body sinks just right into the mattress. You realize something. You've spent years trying to prove your strength by pretending you weren't tired, weren't hurting, weren't afraid. But now you wonder if strength could be something else. What if resilience isn't proving anything? What if it's just quietly showing up day after day, holding space for yourself, laughing at old memories, sipping tea too hot for your lips, and keeping drawings that don't make any sense anymore, except in the way they still make you feel? You turn off the light and let the dark wrap around you like a favorite blanket, the kind with holes in it, the kind you'd never throw away. And just before you drift off, you smile again. That's 3 today. Not bad at all.
Dusk arrives like a hush over the neighborhood, painting the sky in mellow violets and sleepy pinks. You're at their doorstep, old porch light flickering, as though it too is still deciding how bright to be. When they swing the door open, the warm scent of something herbal drifts out. Chamomile maybe, with a rebellious hint of cardamom. They grin, motioning you inside. Kettle just clicked off, they say, as though that's the grandest invitation in the world. You step into a living room where nothing matches and everything belongs. Mismatched cushions, a quilt draped over a rocking chair, books stacked in charmingly illogical towers, adventure novels rubbing spines with cookbooks and half-filled journals. A single lamp glows in the corner, its shade patterned with tiny stars. The light pools softly, not flooding, but gathering, like it wants to listen too. You both sit on the rug, cross-legged, just like you did at 10 years old trading stickers and secrets. Only now your knees creak a bit more, and the secrets have grown taller, broader, less eager to stay contained. Your friend hands you a mug. It's chipped near the handle, memory's little souvenir. Steam rises, curling in lazy figure eights. You take a cautious sip. Too hot, but worth it. Tongue will forgive me eventually, you joke, waving at your own mouth. They laugh, light humor number 1, check, and raise their mug in gentle solidarity. Conversation starts easy. Weather, jobs, the eternal mystery of why socks vanish in washing machines. Light humor number 2. But under the casual chatter, you feel currents waiting. Deeper waters, stories unsaid. The lamplight throws a glow on both your faces, catching the tiny lines the years have traced. Not wrinkles exactly, more like road maps of where you've been. You set your mug down, palms warming on its sides, and tell them about the unsent letter you recently found. You know, the one from Section 4, folded into that long-forgotten book. You confess how you'd started writing it during a midnight storm, trying to make sense of an ache you couldn't name. It felt too raw, you say, so I tucked it away like unbaked dough. They nod slowly, as if they can still smell the rain that soaked that night. They share in return, an old voicemail from someone who once loved them and left no forwarding address. They still keep it, don't play it often, but can't erase it either. You both fall silent, letting the lamp hum its low electric hum. Outside, a cicada whines a lonely solo, summer's violin. Then it happens. You begin to trade those tucked-away pieces the way you once traded marbles. You read snippets of the letter aloud, stumbling over the raw bits. They hit play on the voicemail just long enough for you to hear a voice say, "Call me when you're ready." The words hang in the air, tender and unfinished. And there, in the soft circle of lamplight and steam, you both realize how similar your stories feel. Different plot twists, same ache. The quiet life lesson rises gently between you. Holding pain alone keeps it sharp.
Sharing it sands the edges. You clink mugs in agreement, a gentle ceramic toast, and laugh when a droplet splashes onto your friend's sock. Light humor number 3. They wiggle their toes dramatically, declaring it blessed tea. You promise to embroider the phrase on a pillow someday, though you both know embroidery is not your super skill. The tea grows cooler, conversation deeper. You talk about resilience, not as armor, but as fabric, something woven from daily threads. Making your bed when you'd rather hide under it. Watering the plant even though one leaf looks terminal. Sending that email of apology even when your ego is pouting in the corner. Your friend listens, eyes reflecting lamplight, and maybe a few unspilled tears. They say softly, "Soft can be strong, you know. Cotton thread can hold a kite against the wind." You picture that, a bright kite tugging skyward, tethered by a line that looks too delicate to trust until you feel its steady pull. The metaphor settles, a quiet anchor in your chest. What if, you muse, a subtle, reflective what if, our softness is the actual kite string, the thing that keeps us grounded while we reach higher? Your friend tilts their head, considering, then taps their mug against yours like a philosopher's gavel of approval. Time slips. The lamp's bulb flickers once, reminding you electricity still has limits. You glance at your phones, both screens dark. No urgent notifications, no alarms, just the quiet promise of the night stretching ahead, the safe hush of friendship allowing you to linger. Before you part, your friend rummages in a drawer.
A few evenings later, you and your friend meet at the edge of a quiet lake, one that mirrors the sky so perfectly you feel like you could step right into the clouds if you weren't careful. The day has folded itself into dusk again, that in-between hour when swans drift like thoughts you haven't fully formed, and the water wears the color of hush. You both sit on a weather-worn dock, legs dangling. The boards creak with each small shift, as though the wood remembers every kid who ever cannonballed from its edge. Between you, there's a thermos of cocoa, because why not? Grown up or not, cocoa still feels like a hug. Your friend unscrews the lid with a theatrical flourish, accidentally splashing a few drops. They gasp, clutching their shirt like a wounded actor, and declare, "Tragedy! Cocoa down!" You snort, light humor number 1, then pass them a napkin printed with tiny pineapples. For emergency pineapple triage, you quip, light humor number 2. Already, the night feels easier. The conversation begins with small ripples, work deadlines, misbehaving houseplants, but soon drifts to deeper water. Your friend rolls up a sleeve, revealing a faint scar near the elbow. "Remember how I got this?" they ask, touching it gently. You peer closer. The mark is pale but certain, a thin line like a hyphen connecting past to present. Memory flickers. A daring jump from a tree branch that turned out to be half as sturdy as advertised. You laugh softly, then trace a scar of your own along your shin, a souvenir from a bicycle crash you once tried to blame on mysterious gravity fluctuations. Your friend chuckles, light humor number 3, remembering how you insisted invisible gremlins pulled the handlebars. There's a shared sigh, not sad, just full of years. Scars, it turns out, are like entries in a secret diary the body keeps when you're too busy to write it down. And in this gentle reunion, you begin to read each other's pages aloud. They talk first, voice low, about a heartbreak that felt like stepping on glass in the dark. They describe how they pretended not to bleed, patching things up with busy schedules and upbeat playlists, but still woke some mornings with shards under the skin of memory. You listen without interrupting, cocoa steaming between your hands like a small campfire. The lake picks up their words and sends them outward in widening rings. When they finish, they stare at the water as though waiting for it to answer. You match their silence, offering presents instead of prescriptions. The quiet settles on your shoulders like a soft wool blanket. Your turn comes next. You share a story you've kept under lock and key. The time you failed spectacularly at something everyone assumed you'd ace.
You explain how shame stuck to you like burrs, how you shrugged it off in public but felt it scratching under your collar for years. As you speak, a cool breeze slides across the lake, carrying a scent of pine and distant rain. It feels like the world is exhaling with you. A lone firefly blinks between you, tiny lantern of encouragement. And you realize you're not embarrassed, not here, not with them. It's startling, this freedom, like discovering a hidden room in a house you've lived in forever. You tuck that awareness away, grateful. Your friend nudges your shoulder. "Hey," they whisper, "look at us, two walking patchwork quilts. Kinda cozy, huh?" You both laugh, the sound rippling across the lake and startling a duck that scolds you with an indignant quack before paddling off. The universe, it seems, approves of your levity. A quiet lesson rises. Scars are proof that you dared, not that you failed. They're punctuation marks in the narrative, reminding you where you paused, where you exclaimed, where you turned the page. In their soft glow, you see each other not as damaged, but as textured, stories etched in skin and spirit. The sky deepens to indigo. Stars appear, tentative at first, then braver. You tilt your heads back, tracing constellations. What if, you muse, the night's subtle what if? Our scars are like stars. Maybe from far enough away, they form constellations of who we've become. Your friend hums in agreement. Yeah, a map only we know how to read. Poetic metaphor settles like dew. The lake becomes liquid glass, reflecting constellations above and scars below. Two skies meeting. You feel suspended between them, held by water, wood, and friendship's quiet gravity. The thermos empties. Your toes skim the cool surface, making tiny wakes that chase moonlit reflections. Somewhere beyond the tree line, an owl calls, low and steady, as if adding its own verse to the evening. You share a grin. The owl has impeccable timing.
You wake to soft rain tapping at your window, like an old friend asking to come inside. There's something about rain on a slow morning that makes the world feel like it's whispering just to you, like it knows you've been carrying things quietly and it's ready to help you set them down for a while. You brew a cup of something warm and let the steam brush against your cheeks. There's no rush today. The clock ticks in that kind, unhurried way it sometimes does when it knows you need room to breathe. As you settle by the window, you realize the envelope is still on your nightstand, the one with your drawing of two stick figures under a sky of scars. You pick it up, trace the curve of the moon you sketched, and suddenly you remember something you hadn't thought of in years. A time when you were younger, maybe 10 or 11, and you'd gotten into a fight with that same friend. Something small, something silly, like who got to pick the next game. You'd stormed off, angry and self-righteous, convinced they'd betrayed some imaginary rule. Later that day, you found a note slipped into your backpack. It just said, "It's okay to break sometimes. I'll be here when you're ready to glue it back together." At the time, you didn't understand how rare a gift like that could be. A person who offers presence instead of punishment, who waits at the edge of your storm without judgment. It's funny, isn't it, how certain people show you a version of strength you didn't know to admire until years later. Not loud, not flashy, just steady, kind, strong in the way that doesn't require proving itself. You glance out at the rain, watching how each droplet creates tiny ripples in the puddles below. A thought bubbles up, gentle and sudden. Maybe resilience doesn't always look like getting back up. Maybe sometimes it's just letting yourself rest without guilt. You nod slightly, as if giving yourself permission. Later that afternoon, you walk to the park where you and your friend used to spend summers inventing games with impossible rules. The swing set still creaks the same way. The slide, though a bit rusted now, still dares you to race down with reckless joy. You take a seat on one of the swings and push gently, feet brushing damp grass. A family nearby laughs as their child runs through the drizzle, arms out like wings. You smile. Some part of you remembers that feeling,
the wild joy of running without direction just because you could. Your friend arrives a few minutes later holding 2 paper cups of hot chai, somehow managing not to spill a drop despite the bouncing umbrella above their head. You accept the drink with a quiet thank you and a raised eyebrow. "You're dangerously good at showing up," you say. They shrug. "It's my only superpower." You swing in silence for a while, feet moving in slow arcs, chai warming your hands. Your friend hums an old tune, off-key, familiar, the kind of song you might have made up together as kids. You chime in on the chorus with exaggerated flair, earning a mock bow and a sarcastic, "Wow, Grammy-worthy." You laugh. Light humor, number 1. They ask softly, "You remember that time we tried to run away?" You do, vividly. You'd packed peanut butter crackers and 2 mismatched socks. They brought a flashlight and a comic book. You made it 5 blocks before deciding it was time to go home. You both blamed the mosquitoes. Light humor, number 2. But what you both really remember was sitting on the curb under a streetlight, telling each other secrets that only made sense in the world you were building together. Like how clouds were actually the breath of sleeping giants, or how maybe trees whispered when no one was listening. What if, you wonder now, what if the world really does bend a little for friendships like that? The kind that sees your softest parts and stays anyway. The rain eases into mist. Your friend stands, then offers you a hand. "Let's walk," they say. You take it without thinking, and together you meander along the muddy path, chai cups in hand, shoes squishing in rhythmic protest. There's something about walking slowly beside someone who knows your ghosts by name, the kind of someone who lets the silence stretch without trying to fill it. You reach a bend in the trail where the trees hang low, their branches like outstretched arms brushing your shoulders. There, carved into one of the trunks, is your childhood code, 2 initials and a crooked star. You both grin at it like a secret handshake. "It's still here," you whisper. "Of course it is," they say. "We didn't carve it for the tree, we carved it for us." That hits you, gently, deeply. Some things are not meant to last forever in the world, just long enough to last forever inside you. Light humor number 3 happens a few minutes later when your friend spots a squirrel boldly attempting to steal a sandwich from someone's unattended picnic basket. Bold, they say, chaotic neutral. You nod solemnly. You wake to the gentle hum of morning light filtering through curtains, soft enough to stir the edges of your dreams without pulling you fully away. The world outside feels quiet, as if it's waiting patiently for you to find your rhythm again. You stretch slowly, feeling the subtle tension of yesterday's walk lingering in your legs, a quiet reminder of movement after stillness. Today, you find yourself drawn to the little garden in your backyard, where wildflowers have pushed through the earth with an unassuming kind of courage. You kneel among them, fingertips grazing petals damp with dew. There's a softness here, a quiet persistence that mirrors something inside you, something your childhood friend once nudged awake. You think about how resilience isn't just about enduring storms, but about the small acts of growing toward light, even when the sky is heavy. It's like these flowers, unnoticed by most, yet steadfast. They don't demand applause, they just keep opening, day after day. As you inhale the fresh scent, you wonder, what if resilience is less about strength and more about gentleness? Less about pushing through and more about leaning into the moment. You recall the way your friend spoke of soft resilience, and you realize it's a quiet power, like the river that wears down stone, not by force, but by persistence and grace. A soft breeze brushes your cheek, carrying with it the faint laughter of children playing nearby. You smile softly, the sound weaving into your thoughts like a lullaby for your soul. The laughter reminds you of simpler times, when joy was found in chasing shadows and skipping stones. You pick up a small stone and toss it lightly into a nearby puddle. The ripples spread out slowly, touching edges you didn't notice before. You think of the ripples in your own life,
the quiet impacts of kindness, patience, and presence that reach farther than you might realize. What if every small act of gentleness is like that? A ripple expanding beyond sight, shaping the world in subtle, meaningful ways. You sit back on your heels and close your eyes, breathing in the earthy scent mingled with fresh rain. Your thoughts drift like leaves on a stream, sometimes slow, sometimes swift, but always moving forward. The garden feels alive, a secret sanctuary for your heart's soft resilience. And you realize that, like these wildflowers, you don't need to bloom all at once. It's enough to grow a little each day. You step outside as the sun begins to warm the air, a gentle invitation to embrace the day. The world hums softly around you, the rustle of leaves, a bird's distant call, the subtle creak of the old wooden gate swinging open. You feel the rhythm of life unfolding, a quiet melody beneath the noise. Your thoughts wander back to your childhood friend, that gentle teacher of soft resilience. You remember the day they taught you to listen, not just to words, but to the spaces between them, to hear the quiet truths whispered in pauses, in sighs, in the gentle fall of rain. It's in those silences you realize that resilience often takes root, not in loud declarations or dramatic gestures, but in the steady breath between moments, the calm acceptance of what is. You walk slowly down the familiar path, feeling the crunch of gravel beneath your feet. The texture grounds you, a sensory anchor, reminding you that each step is a choice, a small act of courage wrapped in calm. What if resilience isn't about fighting harder, but about bending with the wind? About knowing when to hold tight and when to let go? Your friend's words echo softly. Strength wears many faces, some softer than others. You pause by a small pond, watching the surface ripple gently as a breeze passes. The water reflects fragmented light, shimmering like shards of a broken mirror pieced back together. You think of your own reflections, some clear, some distorted, but all part of the whole. There's a quiet beauty in imperfection, a lesson your friend lived by. Like the pond, you don't need to be flawless to be whole. You only need to keep reflecting, keep moving. You smile, the corners of your mouth curling with gentle warmth. Maybe soft resilience is a kind of grace, a dance between holding on and letting go, between standing firm and flowing freely. As the sun climbs higher, you feel a quiet strength settling into your bones. Not the loud kind that demands attention, but the steady kind that whispers, "You are enough." You inhale deeply, the scent of earth and grass filling your lungs. The day stretches ahead, full of possibility and quiet courage. And you know, the afternoon sun filters through the leaves, dappling your path with patches of light and shadow, a soft dance of contrast that mirrors the quiet tug of war within you. You feel the familiar ache of old worries stirring just beneath the surface, but now there's something different, an invitation to sit with them, not to fight or flee. Your childhood friend's voice hums in your mind, gentle yet clear. Sometimes resilience is simply staying present, even when the heart trembles. It's a lesson in softness, allowing the edges of your fears to blur like watercolors spilling gently across paper without losing the image beneath. You find a bench by the roadside, worn smooth by years of visitors seeking rest. Sitting down, you close your eyes briefly and tune into the rhythm of your breath. Inhale, exhale, a steady tide pulling you deeper into calm. Around you, the world continues, indifferent yet intimate. The distant laughter of children playing, the rustle of an old cat weaving through tall grass, the faint scent of freshly baked bread from a nearby kitchen. These small details anchor you, tiny beacons of comfort in an uncertain sea. You wonder, what if resilience was less about steel and more about clay? Moldable, forgiving, able to reshape with each new touch. Some say softness is weakness, but maybe it's the quiet strength that cradles the soul when storms pass. Your thoughts drift to a fragile dandelion puff, its seeds ready to scatter on the breeze. You imagine yourself as that puff, delicate, yet capable of traveling far beyond what the eye can see, carrying hope in every tiny parachute. There's a kind of magic in that vulnerability. You smile at the thought, the corners of your lips brushing the edges of a soft laugh. Life is less about holding tight and more about trusting the wind sometimes, trusting yourself to land where you are meant to. Your childhood friend's gentle resilience whispers again, a soft reminder. Every step, no matter how small, is a victory. You sit a moment longer, wrapped in that quiet truth, before rising with a newfound ease. The day's light warms your face as you continue on, the soft lessons settling into your heart like a well-loved song. The evening air cools softly around you, carrying a whisper of jasmine and the faint hum of distant crickets. You walk slowly, feeling the ground beneath your feet, a steady, reassuring presence like the pulse of the earth itself. Each step is a gentle reminder that you are here, alive, moving through this unfolding story. Your childhood friend's voice drifts through your thoughts again, quieter now, but no less certain. Soft resilience isn't just about bending, it's about returning, steady and whole after the sway. The idea settles like a feather on your shoulder, light yet undeniable. You pause beside a small pond, its surface glassy and still, reflecting the deepening sky. The water holds a secret patience, waiting silently through the day's changes, never rushing to be anything but itself. You watch as a single leaf lands softly on the water, floating just long enough before the breeze nudges it onward. There's a delicate balance here, the stillness and the movement, the letting go and the holding close. You consider how often you resist these rhythms, striving instead for control that slips like sand through your fingers. Maybe, just maybe, the lesson is in learning to trust what you cannot grasp. You think of soft resilience as a river's gentle carve, slowly shaping stone without force or fury, persistent but kind. It's the quiet strength that doesn't shout, but moves mountains through patient, unyielding presence. A smile flickers in the corner of your mind, remembering how, as children, you believed that time was a friend who never hurried, never worried. What if you still carry that friend inside? Some say growing up means losing innocence, but maybe it means learning how to cradle it carefully, like a fragile ember glowing in the dark. You breathe in deeply, the scent of jasmine mixing with earth and water, a perfume of peace and possibility. With every breath, the softness deepens, wrapping around your heart like a familiar shawl. You step away from the pond, carrying the gentle rhythm forward, a quiet song humming beneath your skin. You find yourself wandering down a narrow lane lined with ancient trees, their branches weaving a dappled canopy overhead. The leaves whisper secrets in the breeze, stories of resilience whispered through generations, soft and enduring. It feels as if the trees themselves are old friends, patient and knowing, reminding you that strength often hides in stillness. Your friend's laughter echoes lightly in your memory, warm and comforting, like the cozy crackle of a fireside. It's the sound of resilience that isn't rigid or loud, but tender and inviting, the kind that embraces imperfections with a quiet smile. You trace your fingers along the rough bark of a tree, feeling its texture, firm yet worn smooth by time. It's a reminder that resilience is shaped by every touch, every trial, every moment that asks us to bend without breaking. In this place, you consider how soft resilience is not about hardness, but about flexibility. Like the willow that bows gracefully in the wind, it teaches you that sometimes surrender is the bravest act.
You wonder if maybe you've been holding on to your struggles too tightly, gripping so hard that the very thing you want to protect feels strained. As the afternoon light filters through the leaves, casting playful shadows, you imagine your life as a dance, sometimes slow and flowing, sometimes quick and unpredictable. Each step matters, but it's the willingness to keep moving, even softly, that carries you forward. You remember how your friend once told you, resilience is the art of gentle persistence, a whisper that says, "I'm still here." That whisper feels like a lifeline now, pulling you back from the edges of doubt and fear. Some say resilience means standing tall and unyielding, but maybe it's more like the river that knows how to soften its path to reach the sea. It's a journey of patience and trust, of finding strength in the curves and bends. With a soft sigh, you close your eyes and let the moment wash over you. A quiet pause filled with hope and the promise of gentle renewal. The trees seem to nod in agreement, their ancient wisdom wrapping you in a calm embrace. You open your eyes, carrying the lesson forward, your heart lighter and your steps more assured. You walk through a quiet meadow where wildflowers sway softly, their colors muted in the fading light. The air is cool and carries the faint scent of earth and rain, grounding you in this peaceful space between day and night. It's a place where the world feels small and gentle, inviting you to breathe deeply and let go. Your childhood friend's face appears in your mind, calm and steady, as if they are walking beside you now, an old companion who knows the paths of your heart. Their presence feels like a soft lantern in the dusk, guiding without pressure, simply lighting the way. You notice the delicate dance of petals in the breeze and think about how resilience, like these flowers, can be fragile yet remarkably persistent. They don't fight the wind, they bend and sway, finding beauty in their own yielding. It's a quiet kind of strength, one that doesn't shout but shines softly. In this moment, you reflect on how often you've equated resilience with toughness, armor, and unbreakable walls. But maybe it's more like the wildflower's gentle persistence, rooted in softness, open to change, yet reaching toward the light with quiet determination. A small smile touches your lips as a butterfly flutters past, its wings a brief flash of vibrant color against the calm. You wonder about its journey, the fragile creature that travels vast distances, carried on winds both fierce and mild. What if resilience is about trusting those winds, even when you can't see the destination? The sky begins to blush with twilight hues, and the meadow grows still. You feel a tender reassurance settle inside, a reminder that soft resilience is not just about surviving storms, but about thriving in their aftermath with grace and patience. Your friend's voice seems to whisper through the rustling grass. You've carried more than you realize, and that's your quiet power. Those words wrap around you like a warm shawl, comforting and true. You take a slow breath, letting the meadow's calm seep into your bones, knowing that every gentle step forward is a victory. There is beauty in softness, strength in surrender, and hope in every new dawn. As night falls gently, you feel ready to rest, holding the lesson close. Resilience is a tender, ongoing embrace, a friendship with yourself that never fades.
The world around you softens as night deepens, a quiet hush settling like a velvet blanket over everything you see and feel. Stars begin to prick the sky with gentle light, tiny points of calm in the vastness above. You sit here in this peaceful space between wakefulness and dreams, where the lines between memory and hope blur like watercolor strokes on soft paper. Your childhood friend's smile lingers in your mind, warm and steady, a reminder that resilience isn't about rushing forward or pushing through. It's about showing up gently for yourself, day after day, like the steady glow of a candle flame in the dark. You imagine your heart as a small, quiet garden, tended with care and patience. Sometimes the soil is hard and dry, sometimes soft and wet, but each moment is an opportunity to plant kindness, to nurture hope, to let go of what no longer serves you. The garden may not bloom all at once, but every seed holds the promise of growth. There's a quiet magic in this, how softness can be a form of strength, how letting go can create space for new dreams to take root. You think about the times you've held on too tightly, trying to control what cannot be controlled, and wonder what it might feel like to release that grip, to trust the gentle unfolding of life's rhythms. As you breathe in the night air, cool and soothing, you hear the faintest whisper of wind threading through the trees, a lullaby for your soul. The world feels tender here, wrapped in a soft embrace that asks only for your presence, your acceptance, your gentle patience. Some say resilience means never breaking, but maybe it means learning to bend, to sway, to dance with life's unexpected turns, just as you learned to do with your childhood friend long ago. Now, as you prepare to drift into sleep, you carry this quiet wisdom with you, a soft resilience that will cradle you through dreams and into tomorrow's light. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. May your night be calm, your dreams gentle, and your heart ever soft.